morning, everyone. Thanks for joining Launch Your Future Supply Chain. My name's Chris Greentree and I'm the industry lead for supply chain e-commerce for TAFE New South Wales. Joining us today are my colleagues from TAFE New South Wales, Department of Education, and industry representatives from the supply chain sector. Launch Your Future is a New South Wales-based industry and government awareness activity to highlight careers in the transport industry. I'll now put up our welcome of country slide so that we can do an acknowledgement of country. As this event's taking place in a virtual space, each of us stands upon the lands of many different nations. And I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional custodians of all the nations we are meeting from today. I pay my respects to all elders, both past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all other Aboriginal or Torres Strait Island people joining us today. Now, by now, I'm assuming that everyone in this meeting is really familiar with the chat function in Zoom. So later this morning, our panel will review the most popular questions and comments. So I encourage you all to get involved in this morning's conversations. The session will also be recorded and a link will be sent out to you later in the week. So to open our event, I'd like to pass across to David Collins, who is the Executive Director with Training Services New South Wales. Over to you, David.
Great, thanks very much for that welcome. Welcome everybody. It's a pleasure to join you today. Since we're all working from home and learning from home, I'll just apologise that I've come to you right at the time that the garbage collection has decided to come past my house. So if there's some external noise, that's what it is. I'm actually meeting with you from the land of the Gadigal and Wongal people of the Eora Nation. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and to any Aboriginal people who might be with us today. And thinking of supply chain and logistics, I live pretty close to the Parramatta Road in the inner west, and that of course has been built on what was a very well-worn track by our First Nations people who used it in accessing food and trading and the very things that we're here to talk about today. So I acknowledge them and their heritage. This is great. Look, I'm so pleased that we've got students here who are really interested in you learning about your careers, teachers, career and transition advisors. I want to welcome the employer and industry experts with us, as well as TAFE. And on behalf of the department, really want to make a shout out to teachers and careers and transition advisors for your ongoing commitment to ensuring that all young people finish school well prepared for whatever destination they go to, whether that is moving through to higher education, to training or to work. I want to acknowledge the support that we've had from the industry people and the employers in this, but also TAFE New South Wales for partnering with us on these events. And for students who are here, good on you. Look, it's great that you are here engaged with us virtually today, as you have been with your learning for some time, but engage with us virtually to investigate career options. I really want to commend you for the focus that you've had on your learning from home while we've been going through these restricted situations, but also for taking this time today to think about the future. And it's a really great opportunity to do that. Events like Launch Your Future introduce us to a range of careers today associated with supply chain industry, which is a really important industry. And I think we've all come to realize how much we depend on it while we have been going through these COVID restrictions, just how much we depend on it to make sure we're able to access the goods and services that we need. Certainly, if it isn't the garbage truck going past my door, it is somebody delivering goods, whether it's the online shopping I've been doing, my neighbour getting their groceries from the major supermarkets, or other services. And I think it's incredibly important. It's also an industry that's got so many opportunities, and it's a very dynamic and changing and tech-based industry. And I think you'll learn a lot about it today. So I hope that you really engage with it, that you're motivated to ask questions, to find out what steps you can take to build your skills, your experience, and grow your connections and networks with the sector. There's some great people here representing the industry who are going to really enliven it for you today. We'll unpack unimagined career opportunities and opportunities for further study and pathways. If you're in year 9, 10, thinking about what to do, this will be really useful in helping you with your subject choice and your future destinations. And if you are getting to the senior part of your learning, year 11, maybe year 12, great opportunity in terms of thinking about what next. And if you're thinking about what next across TAFE and our vocational education and training sector, there are so many qualifications and pathways, apprenticeship and traineeship opportunities that you can investigate that are going to really help you to strengthen your future. This is a great example, I guess, of the collaboration between our schools, TAFE New South Wales, our employers and industry. So take advantage of it, ask questions, get into that chat, and I hope it's really, really useful for you. And I hope you enjoy the day. Thanks very much.
That's fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us today, David. And it is really a big collaboration here between Education Department, TAFE New South Wales and industry. And together, hopefully we can spell out some ideas for everybody here to think about, that transition from school to employment later on. So what does a career in the supply chain look like? Over the last couple of weeks, we went to industry and asked that very question. So we've put together a short video which highlights what a career in the supply chain industry looks like.
Career progression in the supply chain industry, I honestly think it's about building relationships, learning from them. A lot of people are happy and willing to share their experiences and their knowledge in this industry. There's lots to learn. There's just something different all the time because there's such variety in the type of work that's available in the industry. I just don't think you can really go wrong. I studied a Bachelor of Commerce majoring in HR, but an opportunity came up in supply chain, and I thought, given the exposure and all the different opportunities that they were offering, it was a really good time to try and just say yes and just kind of give it a go.
Funnily enough, supply chain is probably one of the industries or careers that you don't wake up and have an aha moment, like, I want to be a supply chain practitioner today. So it's really that very deliberate process of considering, what do I want to do that will be sustainable as a career and a job in the future. So when supply chain came up, it was a no-brainer.
When I left school, I actually thought that supply chain was just about truck driving and driving a forklift. It's not. There's so many people in IT, there's so many people in systems design. We're employing people in big data. And so one of the key pieces of advice I would have given is think broadly about this industry. You've got a whole lot of skills that you can develop in supply chain that you'll either be able to use as a building block through your career in supply chain or be able to springboard you into other areas that you might be interested in the future.
The most exciting aspect of the industry would be the endless opportunities, especially for women in supply chain. I've been lucky enough to be appointed the first female terminal manager in Australia for Patrick's and in the industry. So that was certainly an exciting achievement for me and for the industry. I think it's an opportunity to pave the way for young women. I think I've visited almost every regional area of Australia that you could imagine. The exciting part is that the industry will take you to places that you wouldn't imagine being in.
If I knew that in high school I wanted to, start out in the supply chain industry, I would definitely approach the businesses or any sort of organisation that's within that industry. Any entry-level experience or exposure kind of does naturally lead further or, into a different area. Like you're not limited by any means.
Experience matters in supply chain. And so that if you want to get yourself into supply chain, get yourself the experience, whether you are interning, an apprentice, following someone else, talking to people in the industry, because people would love talking to you. Apply yourself, be hands-on and be visible. So you need to have the practical smarts, you need to have the experience, but you also need to have some sort of qualification to support what it is that you understand. So those two do go hand in hand, and it's always, like everything, a continuous learning journey.
Mentors are a very important aspect of developing your career and pushing in the right direction, especially if you're wanting to progress. I was very lucky in having some really good mentors that invested a lot of time and effort into me. If you're looking for a particular type of mentor, for me, it's someone that has been in the industry a long time, certainly been exposed to various aspects of the supply chain, and that can really push you to the best of your ability.
The supply chain industry is really on the cusp of a major change. When technology comes in to a workplace, what actually happens is it changes the nature of the work. So at the moment, we've got the capacity for fuel tankers to drive themselves. But we're envisaging in the next 10 to 15 years is those drivers will be riding shotgun in the truck, not actually driving the truck. They'll be supervising its operation, and they'll be there as the first-hand response in terms of emergency response. That's just one example, but right through the supply chain, we're seeing new jobs created, and they're quite exciting jobs.
I think if you're looking to, climb the ladder, become successful, that is something you can certainly do in the supply chain, irrespective of the skill or the function that you're wanting to work within. The skills that you kind of come with, if you've come from a different industry, it's transferable. I think it's just a matter of being willing to jump in, taste test, taking any opportunity that perhaps you didn't think or you didn't know that you'd be interested in, because I think it will surprise you.
Okay, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that video as much as I did. I'm in the industry and I always get a lot out of it after I've watched that video. I've got Mark McKenzie, who is the CEO of the Australasian Convenience and Petroleum Marketers Association. And he's with us here today to give us an overview of the supply chain industry. So I'll mute out and I'll pass over to you, Mark.
Thanks very much, Chris. I might just share a screen. We're just going to walk through two very quick slides. So we'll just do that. But just look, before we start, I suppose one of the things is, what do we mean by supply chain? And we tend to use it almost interchangeably with transport and logistics. It's basically about moving stuff around. And I suppose what I said in the video, it was a case of we tend to focus on the people who are actually physically moving the stuff around. But there's a whole ecosystem sitting behind that movement about ensuring that we're doing it as efficiently as we can from an economic perspective, that we're doing it in an environmentally sustainable manner, and that we're doing it in accordance with the community expectations in terms of safe movement of freight and making sure that we're taking advantage of ensuring access for everybody. I'm here with two hats, as Chris said. I'm the CEO of the fuel transport industry in the country. We move 50 billion litres of fuel around every year. And that's supplying mine trucks, diesel to trains, ensuring the total road transport fleet is actually supporting farm machinery and supporting industry. And our whole goal is to ensure that we move those 50 billion litres in a time-efficient manner to make sure no one runs out of fuel and the whole industry keeps moving around. So you get a bit of an idea about the sort of focus that I come from. But like a lot of people on this call, I've got two hats, one head, two hats. The other hat I actually have is I'm the chair of the National Transport Logistics Industry Reference Committee, which actually advises the government around setting the standards for our industry. And that gives us a bit of a view on how the industry actually operates at a headline level, as well as looking at the sorts of issues that are coming down the line. So I just really wanted to take time to share two slides with you. The first thing is, when we talk about the transport logistics industry, what does it look like? Well, in this slide, what we can basically tell you is it currently employs around 575,000 Australians. And through to 2026, we expect it'll be employing around 600,000 Australians. It's got an employment growth rate of about 4.6% year on year at the moment through to 2026. You can actually see in one of the graphics down there with all the people, just where that workforce is actually located by state. Most of the heavy lifting is done along the eastern seaboard of New South Wales, Victoria and Queensland. That's where we have the majority of our workforce, because that's where the majority of the activity in this country occurs and where the international gateways actually operate. There's a little graphic there, what's actually happening in our industry, which is quite exciting, certainly as we're all competing for talent and employees, is we're actually seeing the gender distribution start to change. When I first started, got a bit of grey hair here, so I've been in the industry for a long time. It was predominantly male. We're getting to a point now that 1 in 5 are actually female, and that trend continues to increase over time. We're an older industry, and that partly has to do with the fact that the way to get in, particularly in the road freight industry, is that you've actually got to go through some significant qualifications in terms of licensing and so on. But like most industries, all industries are aging. So the average age in the industry is about 45.6 years, which means there's great opportunities and a real hunger in our industry to get young people into the industry. In terms of total industry value, so this is the value delivered back to the economy. We've got a value add of what we call the value add of 39.9 billion, just shy of $40 billion, but our total turnover, total revenue is $101 billion. And if you think about the sort of businesses that comprise the industry, which is really important, it's just not the big companies that we all know. There's 184 of those, but we've got just under 2,000 medium businesses, but most importantly, we've got 185,000 small businesses that operate in this sector. So there's opportunities right across the spectrum in terms of business size. In terms of just some what we call fast facts, and we tend to use in our committee, 17.6% of Australians' emissions in September 2020 came from the transport sector. We account for about 17% of Australian apprenticeships who are 19 years and younger, and 68% of Australian apprenticeships who are 25 years and older. And the main reason we have those older apprenticeships is due to the fact that we've got some licensing requirements, particularly in the road freight industry, that require you to have a couple of years of experience. 17% of our apprentices are female, and 20% of our apprentices are employed by small business. If you think about it in toto, we've got 224 billion tonne kilometres moved by freight during 2019-2020. So 1 tonne moved 1 kilometre is 1 tonne kilometre. $28.5 billion was spent by governments on roads to actually ensure that they kept the infrastructure available to us. And we've got total road length of just under 878,000 kilometres. I suppose most importantly, we've got 9 million households that actually shopped online in 2020. And as we said in the video, that's one of the major changes that's occurring in our industry. It's about being able to move not just goods from manufacturer to a distribution centre to a retailer, but actually move them from the manufacturer directly to your home. And that's really creating some challenges for us in terms of smarts in the system. I'll just finish off by, I think one of the things people tend to think about, and I said in the video, we tend to think about it, truck drivers and forklift drivers are populating this industry. But when you really look at it, the majority of that is what's below the waterline, a bit like an iceberg. You certainly see the front end that we all know about, but there's a lot happening below the waterline. So we employ people like data analysts, database specialists, logistics engineers, schedulers who actually plan all the chess moves that are actually going there, engineers, sustainability professionals, any form of business profession. So whether that's financial, accounting, HR, the whole industry is actually geared that way. But more and more, our industry is being reshaped by some of the big entrants coming into our industry. People like Amazon. Amazon is a logistics company. People tend to forget that. They think of it as IT. And they're competing with some of the very traditional companies that we have in logistics, like DB Schenker. Woolworths actually has a massive logistics operation that sits behind it in terms of the distribution of goods into our stores. And we've got Coca-Cola online today, so I won't steal some of their thunder, but if you think about how they actually get all their goods, not just to supermarket, but actually into all the vending machines that are operating around the country and ensure they're full. So look, I suppose the sense here was to really give you a bit of a feel for the fact that this is a big industry and it's actually growing pretty fast and it's being reshaped by technology. So the opportunities that exist in the sector are almost unlimited at the moment, and it's a sector that is really hungry to get as many people into it to actually deal with the growth in demand for freight over the next 10 to 15 years. I'll finish there, Chris. Thanks very much.
That's fantastic, Mark. And you've already stopped sharing your screen. You are such a Zoom professional, you are. Listen, that was just awesome. Two of the points I've picked out on that one, though, was on that graph there, it was the growth, 4.6% growth, which means there's going to be plenty of employment opportunities open up in the future. And the second bit that I picked up on was since I've been working from home for the last, I'm not sure how long it's been, 8 or 10 weeks, I've noticed the amount of online shopping that my family does is just off the charts. And so, yeah, you're 100% right. This is such a growing industry that is becoming more and more a part of, what we rely on. So we're going to hold on to you because you're going to come back in the question and answer time later on. And guys, if you've got any questions that you want to ask Mark or the panel that I'm about to bring on next, use the question and answer function in Zoom so that we can make this as interactive as possible. Okay then, so a change of pace. I've got 3 really amazing women with us today. Lisa Nguyen, who's the Supply Chain Business and Insights Manager with Coca-Cola Amatil. Rita Antrenick, who is the National Intermodal Manager with Patrick Terminals. Danielle Markey, who's the Health and Wellbeing Advisor for Cube Holdings. Now, these women have really impressive bios, and we've uploaded those on the SharePoint. So if you haven't had a read of those, talk to your careers advisors, get a copy of it, and have a read about our speakers because they're really amazing people. Now, I'm really keen to find out what it's like working in the supply chain sector. And I'm hoping that you 3 women can share more about your career journeys so we might inspire our students who are connecting with us today. So Lisa, I might start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do in your role as the Supply Chain Business and Insights Manager for Coca-Cola Amatil?
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me loud and clear? Awesome. Hi, my name is Lisa, and I work for what previously was known as Coca-Cola Amatil, is now Coca-Cola European Pacific Partners. It is a mouthful, but we're going to get used to that acronym very soon. What I really like about a little bit about my role is I actually look after a very interesting team and a variety of different teams, including insights that look after data with one of our key stakeholders is IT. We've got people working in customer experience who work along with sales and customers to actually improve our service. And then we've got the territory planning team who look after the reroutes and network optimization. So I cover a wide range of what's not traditional supply chain, but equally and fundamentally important.
Okay, so we know what you do. What did your career pathway look like? How did you get started? And tell us that bit of a story so that we can share that with everyone listening.
It got started, one day I woke up and a rock hit on my head and I had an aha moment. No. So it was quite a thoughtful process of elimination around what did I want to do, where do I want to go, what was going to be suitable for my future career and my future lifestyle, even with the flexibility of working from home and looking after kids, or the flexibility of wanting to travel and leave Australia one day. So I wanted a career that was able to pick up and go for me. And supply chain actually came onto the list as one of the very flexible ones because it's not bounded by Australian laws. There are some things that you do need to learn, but moving trucks and putting pallets in warehouses across the world, it allows you to work from home in certain jobs and careers. It's not held to your desk, but it's also not restricted to a very specific geographical location. So it really gave me that flexibility, and that's really how I stumbled on the career of supply chain.
Okay, well, we've worked before together, and I always go off script, so I might be going a little bit off script of what I sent you the questions were. So I'm going to jump to qualifications required, like, for what you're doing. What kind of qualifications we need?
So my qualifications, I did night classes at university as a mature age student. So for a long while, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went back to uni and did a Bachelor of Business. And by second year, it was that process of elimination. Didn't want to do HR, didn't really want to do accounting. So it kind of gotten to that point where I'm like, oh, logistics came up and that's an aha moment for me. So I graduated in global logistics and operations management. in my bachelor's degree, and 10 years down the career path, I decided to go back to uni and do my Masters of Business Administration, my MBA. But in terms of career, I've worked with so many people in my time with variations of degrees, and I've had people who graduated in physics who've joined supply chain. I've worked with people in chemical engineering who've joined supply chain. I've worked with people who are in human resources, similar to what Danielle was saying in her video, and then joined supply chain. So truck drivers to, it ranges from all parts of qualifications that you somehow magically land up in supply chain.
Okay, so you actually answered my next question, which was the advantages, and you clearly put that out. But look, I'm going to ask you one last question about advice for students. But before I do, tell us about that amazing background you got behind you. Like, what are we looking at here? Is this one of your Coca-Cola warehouses?
Yes, it is. So this is the one of the Coca-Cola warehouses located in Northmead near Westmead Hospital. So if you're driving along James Roos Drive for any Sydney siders, you will see the big Coca-Cola sign right next to the McDonald's. It is about 12 stories high, and it's almost, I think, 90% automated. I'm not going to give facts today, but it is this amazing warehouse. And if it wasn't during COVID times, I would welcome students to reach out to the company and actually come in for a tour.
Yeah, well, that was the plan before the Delta outbreak hit us. We were going to have an event after this webinar where we try and organise through our REAP officers and our careers advisors to get a couple of on-site tours. So that's awesome. Is there any last advice you want to give to our listeners before I cross to our next person?
In terms of career supply, interest supply chain? Absolutely. There are plenty of opportunities in supply chain across every skill, every discipline. And as long as you come applying yourself and really want to problem solve and work with people, supply chain has a place for you. So that would be my advice for anyone who is thinking about supply chain.
That's awesome. You're off the hook now, and I'll get you back at the question and answers. Okay, so Rita's next one in the hot seat. And look, it's good to have you here, Rita. I read your bio, I was totally impressed. A couple of years ago, you were working in Western Australia as, and I've got to say this slowly, the first female terminal manager for Patrick's. That's just awesome in its own. And now you're working back in Sydney, working as the National Intermodal Manager for Patrick Terminals. Now, this sounds like an awesome story that needs to be shared. So a couple of questions first about the workplace. Can you explain what an intermodal is to our students? Because I think we need to understand that one before we start talking about the job.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me, Chris. Yeah, look, intermodal is basically, it's just a technical term for transporting containerized freight in various different modes. So rail, ship and road, pretty simple.
Well, I couldn't find my mute button there. Sorry about that. But I am having a little bit of background envy here. I've got my TAFE New South Wales banners going on, but what is that behind you?
So that's our Port Botany terminal, which is one of our largest terminals. We have 4, so Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne and Fremantle. So yeah, there's 9 cranes in Sydney at the moment. So pretty busy port. We average about 25,000 boxes a week, sometimes more. So very, very busy times for us. Okay,
well, in that presentation from Mark earlier, 79% male, 21% female. I think of the docks and all the rest of it as a real male, dominated workplace there.
Yeah. And
here you are. What's that like, being a female in such a male-dominated industry? And while you're answering that, if you could just, talk about, what Patrick's does to make sure that, it's a safe environment and there's real opportunities for all genders.
Sure. Look, working in a male-dominated industry does come with its challenges. But I've learned one thing, that our industry is really evolving rapidly. Many organisations such as Patrick and Cube, they're embracing gender diversity, and there are so many opportunities out there for young women and men, of course, who are looking for a career in the supply chain industry. I think now is a fantastic time for young students that are looking to get into this industry, particularly because a lot of companies like Cube and Patrick are recruiting cadets and traineeships and so forth. There's so many opportunities that weren't around when I started 16 years ago. So I think, it's a great time to join. And if we look at the male to female ratio at Patrick's at the moment, we're at about 10%. And I think we're targeting 15% by 2025. And then we're looking to target 40% female board members by 2025 as well. So I think certainly evolving pretty quickly.
That's awesome. Yeah, gender diversity, we're talking about 50% of our population,
Yeah.
and in areas where we've got skills shortages, we shouldn't have them, because, we've got to make sure that we employ all of our population. So how'd you get started in this job? Because, it's like a bit of a square hole and a round peg sort of a thing. So tell us that story.
Yeah, so I joined the industry about 16 years ago, just in an admin role in our corporate office. I did that for a number of years, and the role evolved into something a little bit bigger. And then I had an opportunity to go and work at the docks in Melbourne as a shift manager. So I made a move. I relocated interstate. Actually, I've relocated interstate probably 6 times now in various different roles. So I went from a shift manager role to an operations superintendent and operations manager. And then in 2019, I was given the amazing opportunity to go and work in Fremantle as the first female terminal manager in the country. And then here I am today.
So you're like the apex, you're up the top. I was going to ask you, where do you see yourself in 10 years' time? That's going to be a big one. I'm going to try and guess this.
Yeah. I'd like to see myself possibly work in an overseas port at some point in my life, and certainly get to a CEO type position, or even just sit on a board. But I think I'd like to tackle overseas first and then go from there.
And I think I know the next answer. What do you like most about your job?
I love the people I work with. I love that I get to travel the country. I meet different people all the time. I love that I've been in this industry since I was 21 and I'm now 40, and every day I learn something new. And I just love that no 2 days are the same. It's just exciting watching cargo come off a ship, different kinds of cars, containers with toilet paper in it. I think people don't often think about where it comes from, but just seeing the product come through the port, it's just an exciting industry. I love it.
That is awesome. Well, you're about to get off the hot seat now and back to the Q&A panel. Any last tips for our listeners? Yeah,
look, I think it's a very rewarding industry, and one that will offer you so many opportunities. Talk to your career advisors. Feel free to reach out to any of the panelists today. We're more than happy to talk to students if they want to speak to us one-on-one. I'm happy to share my details, but I just think there's great opportunities out there, and supply chain is where it's at.
Thanks, Rita, and thanks so much for taking the time to speak to us this morning.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Okay, so I'm going to go to our final person that we want to just interview live here, and that's Danielle. Now, your story is a little bit different. You started with Cube Holdings in 2017 under their graduate program. So straight up, I want to know a little bit more about this graduate program you did, and you can talk about Cube, what they are, because for me, I know who Cube is, but I guess a lot of our students and careers advisors are thinking, Cube, what is that? So I'll let you answer that question there, Danielle.
Yeah, of course. And good morning. Okay, so a bit of a background about Cube then. We are a supply chain transport logistics company, but we offer end-to-end solutions. So I suppose the best way to describe it is that any of the things that you see around you, like your phones or anything like that, if you think about how it got to you, Cube and companies of the like are probably are definitely a part of that process. So we work in operations with the port, so where vessels and those really big boats come around, and they'll have the shipments that Rita was working and talking about before, and then we offer the warehouses and the transporting between warehouses, and then obviously to distribution centres, and then also getting it to centres where you can purchase those materials. So that's a little bit about what we do. There's so much more. It's always such a hard question to tackle, but in regards to the graduate program, what they do, because we have so many operations available, where you do get a bit of an exposure to each of those operations. So I started with our bulk division, which is closer to a mining division. So I was working, had a bit of exposure to the operations there. Also some exposure to the ports division, and then also logistics, which is the warehousing, rail. We've got a bit of rail operations as well, and then the short haul truck driving. So during that time, it's basically just giving us a bit of a grasp of all of those different areas and operations in that program.
That's awesome. So COVID, a lot of people out of jobs at the moment. How's that affected the industry that you're in?
I think I can speak on behalf of everyone, is that we've gone gangbusters. It certainly hasn't hasn't impacted us in the same way that it has other industries. I think that I don't know if you might notice, but there's a lot of labour shortage in our industry. It's almost highlighted the importance of this industry during this time. And as Rita mentioned, it's actually really rewarding to know that what we do and how we support our country and how important it is. So definitely, it's a very, very busy time for everyone here.
Okay. Any advice to our students?
So I'm similar to what Lisa and Rita have spoken about, is that, it's the skill sets that the supply chain industry looks for and employees it's so wide. I can't stress that enough, that if you're not too sure about what you want to do, or if there's anything that I could I suppose any advice I could give is that the cadet programs and graduate programs that are available, they definitely give you exposure to different things. So if you're really unsure about what you want to do, this could potentially, one, help you work that out, and then two, project your career in that direction, because it is a little bit scary if you leave school or finish a uni degree and still didn't really have an idea. That's really I find that it's really helpful, and it's such a great industry with endless opportunities. So that's what I would say.
Okay, thank you so much, Danielle. So let's talk about what we've covered so far. We've talked about some of the tips of how to get into the supply chain. We've heard a little bit about what it's like working there, what the supply chain is. So from a training point of view, TAFE offers dozens of courses that are designed to give you the right skills for the supply chain industry. You can start your career with a short course in Certificate 3 in Supply Chain Operations, and then you can move on to Certificate 4 in Logistics, and on to either a Diploma of Logistics or a Diploma of Customs Broking. Another option is traineeships. TAFE New South Wales offers a traineeship with a Certificate 3 in Supply Chain Operations. And the great thing about a traineeship is you can earn while you learn. Now, the past several decades has seen globalisation push the supply chain industry to the forefront of business operations. And then when you add digitalisation to the mix, and companies now competing with the entire world rather than locally. Experts like Mark have suggested that the data will play the most critical role in shaping the future of logistics over the next 5 years. And so while the logistics industry has this access to data, It's the digital transformation and training that facilitates job growth. So I'm going to give ourselves a little bit of a plug here, TAFE New South Wales, and I'm going to put into the question and answers a link to TAFE New South Wales website, which will show you the links to our courses and a little bit more information about it. Now, I can't see my screen at the moment, but there's a QR code that's just come up. And so if you go to tafenewsouthwales.edu.au, that'll take you straight to our website. Now, a little sneak peek here for everybody. TAFE New South Wales is updating our website, and we have now got the beta site up and live on the web. So if you go to the QR code or go to TAFE New South Wales and go to our website, right now you'll be able to launch into our beta site. And if you go into the beta site, you'll be able to quickly find logistics courses just by clicking on I want to see all courses. You click on the I want to see all courses and then scroll on down and you'll find all the courses that are covered today under trade and logistics. Anyway, I'll put that in the chat box as well, and that way people can find that nice and easy. Okie doke. So I'm going to do a little bit of a change of pace here, and I'm going to cross to another one of our guests, Cathie Anne. Now, Cathie Anne has 25 years experience in recruiting and career placement. So I think this woman really knows what she's talking about in terms of what industry is looking for getting the right people into jobs in the supply chain industry. So she joins us now in the conversation. And
Hi, Chris, thank you.
Thanks, Cathie. I'm going to ask you a first question, all right? What are the attributes that you're looking for, like, you know, when you're recruiting people wanting to go into this industry?
When I'm looking for people to come into the industry, it really is about the person having thought through their passion. And you've seen a lot of passion today from a lot of people. And I've experienced over many years meeting people, as other people have mentioned, from accounting or from truck driving or from, there's so many entry points. And as young people thinking about getting in, the enthusiasm, try and get any job in the industry to start you off and work out what you might like, where you might like to go. But it's really the passion we're looking for, the interest is the key.
Now, I think you've got a couple of slides. Do you want some help putting those slides up on the screen so you can talk to them?
I think I can do it. Let's make sure that that's okay. Does that look all right? Can we see?
Yes, we can. Perfect.
Fantastic. Let's have a go. So I'm so sorry. I don't know why it's not going big there.
Don't worry about it. That looks fine. We can see it all perfectly well.
Fantastic. So I just would like to reiterate what some other people have said as well, because it's fascinating. Supply chain and logistics is an industry unto itself. As we've talked about, goods coming into the country, shipping, freight, warehousing and distribution. That itself is its own industry, but it's a unique and a wonderful industry because it goes across almost every other industry as well. So anything, the supply chain is anything from the raw material supply to manufacturing to the final customer. That's all supply chain. So as previously mentioned, there are engineering roles, all sorts of different roles in supply chain, which is exciting. So we've heard about some of the roles, but I'd like students to start to think about what their interest is. It's hard to know an industry before you're in it. You get a lot of information from us, but you've got to look internally at what type of subjects you love and what your natural sort of tendencies are. So if you're somebody that, and these are just some examples, there are so many jobs in the industry, but just to give a bit of an idea, if you're the sort of person that prefers physical work, there's plenty of jobs in the industry. Warehouse worker, forklift driver, truck driver, pick packer, many jobs there. If you're a very mathematically minded, statistically, like a bit of analysis type of person, love your maths, all sorts of roles there as well. We've got supply chain planners, we have transport planners, supply chain analysts that have a look and analyse materials on the way through and see if they can gain some efficiencies. If you're not particularly mathematically minded, but you love language and English and relationships and dealing with contracts, etc., there are roles in procurement, customs broking, customer service, all sorts of administration and customer service dealing with client roles. And for those that are very technologically minded, as previously mentioned, still an exciting industry because we've got an amazing future. all sorts of roles in robotics, automation, big data analysis, and edge computing. And if you haven't heard what edge computing is, it's handheld devices, meter reading devices, head-held devices, voice picking, all sorts of amazing things in future. So even from that small list, which is only a tiny sample of jobs available, you can see that there's something for everybody as a starter. So how do you get a job in supply chain? Well, I am a recruiter, and the sad truth is I find people for jobs. I don't find jobs for people. Now, the reason I'd like the students to understand about that too is that if a recruiter or an agency doesn't get back to you immediately, it's not that they're rude. Their focus is the clients and finding the right people. Having said that, as you go along, if you can make some relationships with recruiters or agencies, or even directly to a company that you may have an interest in working for, then persevere. Persevere, call again. How do you get a job? Show passion, be keen and willing to work. Try to get a part-time job in the industry if you can, or a traineeship. Lots of other examples and types of study have been offered here. When you write, oh, I didn't put this on the list, but it is important to write a very short cover letter explaining why you're applying for that job and why you're interested in that job. And that makes a huge difference. A lot of people don't bother to write a short cover letter. Use the right keywords in that cover letter and or on your resume. Try to make some relationships, and as a person, be reliable and be consistent. It's a high pressure industry as well, and we are looking for people that are reliable, that do what they say they're going to do, and are able to be consistent. You'll see a logo there for the Supply Chain and Logistics Association of Australia. That is a networking association and professional association for our industry. If and when you find yourselves as a full-time student, you can join for substantially cheaper, $50 for a year of networking, and you'll get to meet lots of other professionals. And the most important thing that I think that we need to tell our young people nowadays in this digital world, please, please, please don't be scared to pick up the telephone and call directly. Call the HR manager, call the company and ask, how can I get my resume under the nose of the hiring manager? I'd love to work with your company. So again, passion, enthusiasm, and don't be scared to pick up the phone.
That's great, Cathie. I was in a workshop yesterday where we were trying to work out, how to help unemployed youth into the transport and logistics. And when we started brainstorming around it all, the amount of support that is there for young school students is just incredible. And so, if you're out there and you're thinking, I don't know what to do, I feel like I'm on my own, just stick your hand up and ask, because there is just so much out there to help you, to give you a hand, to help you find your way. So look, I'm going to cross over.
True. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Cathie. Thank you. I'm going to cross over now to Gigi, and Gigi is with Department of Education. And I'm going to let you introduce yourself and get straight into it because we're just a couple of minutes behind time.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Chris. And thanks everyone for joining us. As Chris mentioned, my name is Gigi Awadala. I'm the Transition Advisor in Transition and Pathways team. All the panelists, absolutely fabulous and are supporting everything I'm saying at the moment. So here is your question, students. What lies between luck and opportunity? It's called preparation. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. You are in the prime time of your life to prepare yourself for your future and your career. The earlier you experience and understand the professional world, the more quickly you'll be able to get ahead. This is why it's so important for high school students to access to workplace opportunities and career exploration. It's all about preparation. I'll be discussing 2 ways you can prepare yourself for a career in the supply chain industry. First, the My Future website, and secondly, opportunities you can create while you're still at school. Now take note. You have free access to the My Future website. It is Australia's national career information service. Nationally, nearly 905,000 registered users use the My Future website. I'll explain a key feature you can use right now to start your journey to prepare for the supply chain industry. Okay, let's go. Access My Future via your student portal or by going through the website. Select students on the top bar and then select occupations or industries. If you choose to select occupations, type in the occupation you wish to explore. If you select industries, scroll to the icon that displays transport, postal, or warehousing. So far, so easy, and it gets easier. Once you have your desired career, you can click to view all the information required for a fulfilling career in the supply chain industry. The overview will give you a list of job titles, main tasks, and personal attributes. Employment opportunities list potential companies who require these skills and job roles. Top 20 occupations takes a deep dive into the top 20 supply chain positions. Employment prospects looks at the salary, weekly earnings, working hours, and conditions. Future growth predicts the future of the supply chain industry within the next 5 years. Explore similar industries is a great way to explore other industries with similar skill sets. Education, training, and skills identifies the qualifications you require to hold the position. Industry website links to association, workers' union, and other relevant sites to support your career. Videos, view and listen to industry people explain their day-to-day work and the opportunities in their industry. It is such an amazing website and a must visit. And thank you to all our panels who have touched on one of these points as we listen to them. So thank you very much. Now let's explore the opportunities you have and you can create while you're at school. These are the best we have seen in our education system. Remember, it's all about being prepared to meet the opportunity when luck comes knocking at your door. I can't stress enough how important it is to speak to your careers advisor. Your school's careers advisor is there to talk through some of the potential careers available by helping you to explore your career goals and aspirations. Careers advisors help you to understand yourself, your interests and values, and then tie that all up into your future goals, which helps you achieve your educational and career goals. Vet courses are an excellent way to start your supply chain qualification while you're still at school. The benefit means you finish school with a head start with a national recognized industry qualification, making you employable. Many vet courses incorporate a period of on-site workplace learning, which means you don't just learn in the classroom, but get priceless industry experience in a genuine work environment. Careers expos provide you the opportunity to meet representatives from businesses, industry, and community to discuss current positions available. And it offers you the chance to present yourself to potential employers. Work experience allows you to gain an insight into the world of supply chain, gain exposure to what working life is like, and helps you develop a general awareness of the industry. The main reason behind industry visits is that it lets you know things practically through interaction and exposes you to the practical working environment. Getting your parents' or carers' perspective is important as they may influence your choices. In many cases, your parents know you very well and have had years of life experience they can share with you. Networking will help you develop and improve your skill set. Stay on top of the latest trends in the supply chain industry, keep a pulse on the job market, meet prospective mentors, and gain access to necessary resources to help you foster your career development. Now, how good is a school-based apprenticeship or traineeship? You can have it all. You attend school, study a vet course, and combine it with employment and training. You get paid while you learn workplace skills, gain confidence, and adapt to the work environment. It gives you the opportunity to put skills learned at school and in the training organization into practice in a real work environment. After your schooling, you hit the ground running and continue with your employment. Wow, the opportunities are endless. So if you have any questions for me, please type them in the Q&A below, and I hope this has been useful, and start preparing for your successful career in the supply chain industry.
Gigi, thanks so much for that. That was just awesome. I never get tired of hearing all those tips and tricks, and wish I had access to that kind of stuff when I was a school kid. Amy Greenshields, you're sitting there in the background, you're looking at the Q&A. I know that our panel have done a pretty good job answering some of those. So what haven't we answered? Is there anything we've missed here?
Chris, what I might actually do is read out a couple of the questions, because whilst they've been answered, I think there might be questions that a few of the other participants might also have.
Yep, let's hit us. We've got a couple of minutes.
Okay, so some questions around opportunities in regional areas. So what sort of opportunities are available? And I know that Mark, Rita, and I think Lisa all had answers for that one that they might like to share. So maybe start with Mark.
Yeah, thanks for that, Amy. Look, I think the key thing is freight's everywhere. So the opportunities are everywhere. If you think about ports, every place there's a port. So in New South Wales, Newcastle, Sydney, Wollongong have got opportunities. Major freight centres along our highways, so Tamworth, Dubbo, Orange, Wodonga, Wagga Wagga, they're all places where we've actually got hubs. So there's basically opportunities right across the country. But as Rita had actually said, it's also the opportunity to travel between states, nationally and internationally. You can do it in this sector as long because you've got portable skills that everyone wants.
Okay, Rita, Elise.
Yep.
Yeah, look, I think Mark pretty much summed it up. There's opportunities everywhere. I think Cube they operate in 28 different ports around the country. So, and apologies if I keep talking about Cube, but Cube are a shareholder of Patrick. So, and I spent 13 years of my, the first 13 years of my career with Cube. And that's where I had a lot of opportunities to travel around to regional areas, you know, such as the Northern Territory, Dampier, Port Hedland. There are endless opportunities in regional New South Wales with rail and warehousing, etc. Danielle, I don't know if you want to add to that, but well, Lisa, I think that pretty much tells you there's plenty of opportunity there.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you, Rita and Mark. They're not so much in my current role. Most of the time we've been in lockdown, but in my previous roles working for BP and looking after Queensland and Northern Territory, there were plenty of opportunities to work at different terminals and different gantries, and definitely lots of traveling opportunities. It's not like, I think it's not restricted to any one geographical location. Thank you.
Okay, I'm really conscious of the time, but I just got that one little one that I put in our chat box to squeeze out. I might actually read it myself. How do school students connect and get work experience in warehousing or computing data side of supply chain? Lisa, is that you? Put you on the spot.
For warehousing, it's just go onto site, give them a call, and put your applications in. Don't stop at no. I've had many no's in the past. I'm sure a lot of people here have. But if you show earnest and you persevere and you apply yourself, then do not take your first no as an answer, or even the second or third in that case. And for the data science, I think there are plenty of opportunities around projects at the moment where supply chain is going through that technology transformation. If you are interested, contact the local or the business HR that you are wanting to work with, and give them a call and demonstrate your interest in internships or apprenticeships, or any other programs that they are running within the businesses.
Can I just add to that? If you're not as a student, jump on LinkedIn. I think really in these sorts of things, this is an industry full of genuine people. We don't stand on ceremony. So set yourself up a LinkedIn account and then just look for the company that you've actually got. Find someone who actually works in that company. If you get stuck, then look for me. Send me a direct message, link up with me, because one of the benefits you get from being old and grey is you know a few people who might be able to actually help with things like visits and connections and speakers.
You're a legend, Mark. You really are, mate. Okay, so look, that's all we've got time for. Anything that we haven't addressed, we're going to do a little bit of homework and get something out to all those teachers that have registered so that we can try and make sure no questions are unanswered. I'm going to cross across to David Collins. What do you think, mate? How'd we go?
Look, I've just got to commend you all. I just love the passion of each of you who works in the industry. And I want to say to the students, the reason they're here is because A, they're passionate about the industry, but B, because they want you. This is an industry that needs you. It needs new people. Think about the sorts of jobs you've heard about today. I want to say one thing to complement all of that. Find a way in. Find a way in. The job that you get into won't be your last job. It'll be a platform on which you can build. Think about the job that you might be able to get into the industry. Think about where you want to go and think about the training that you can do to get there, because the opportunities really are endless, and it's changing so fast that it's pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting what the future holds. So I just want to thank all our panelists and thank all the students for being here today. And thank you, Chris.
That's it. Please stay safe out there during COVID. We're almost through this. We're getting towards the end, and look forward to talking to you all again. Thank you.